Hello, it's me, Rez, and welcome to the time stream. I was sitting around today and I thought to myself, what a perfect day to destroy the lives of corrupt men, fight my dead brother, pretend my ex-best friend isn't a sociopathic narcissist, and kill a bird demon creature with boobs that briefly possessed my sister. And by that I mean, what a perfect day to play the finale of Final Fantasy Tactics, the remake. We're on to Chapter 4, In the Name of Love. We open up to a conversation between Ramza and Merrick, who's probably Jesus, since he resurrected shortly after dying. They're having a conversation about the magical, mythical stones that everyone and their weird demon animals want. Up until this point, the game gives you the impression that the stones are purely evil, but from Merrick's revival by the use of one, we start to realize that the evil people are evil and the stones are neutral until someone uses them for better or worse. Ramza decides he needs to head off to meet Orlando to stop the currently happening war between Dumb and Dumber, and more specifically to stop the idiotic battle that's about to take place. On our way there, we run into the medieval Green Goblin. I was gonna make another reference here instead, but it's from a game so obscure I don't think a single person would get it. Anyways, she thinks we're heretics and tries to stop us and promptly fails. Afterwards, we have a random fight against monsters. For some reason, there are random mandatory fights against monsters in this game. I have to believe that it's to pad out runtime, but to me it doesn't make much sense. We proceed to remove them from the game, if you know what I mean. Then we make it to a church, in a town where Delita happens upon us and he tells us all of his dark, dirty secrets and plans. Blah, blah, blah. Long story short, his whole personality is destroy the church, destroy the nobility, and I hate everyone who isn't me. But then, they're rudely interrupted when the medieval televangelist appears again after fading into obscurity in the prior chapter to tell us to repent and ask us if we have donations. We tell him no, he gets mad, and then we remove him from the game as well. We then have a brief conversation with Delita and random blonde woman that appears out of nowhere, then leaves because she tells us that the battle will soon begin. You know, the battle between Dumb and Dumber. Ramza heads off to find Orlando before it's too late and ends up at the Beta Sand Waste, where we come across an NPC that has a name and custom portrait for some reason, as he's blowing his hopes and dreams to the wind. Just kidding, it was poison. Who guessed it was actually poison? Anyways, he poisons us, but I guess no one gave him the memo about Isuna existing. Anyways, we beat him and move on. Orlando's accused of treason? We move on to the south wall of Fort Bessalot because we're trying to find Orlando, who's from the Order of the Southern Sky. Southern Sky, south wall, get it? Got it? Okay, good, moving on. This fight is laughably easy. Again, moving on. We now see the effects of the poison irrelevant NPC blew into the wind when we switch to Zalbog's POV and he realizes that evil brother is evil when he kills Dumb. I mean Larg, and tries to rationalize it because for their House Beowulf, big evil house man does big evil house things. Then we have a battle where the goal is to step on 2 pressure plates. That shouldn't be that hard, right? Oh, got it. Okay, we have the whole army guarding these 2 pressured plates for some reason. This battle took me way too many attempts. I eventually did it, but my god, is there so much that can go wrong. If you let the units on the right catch up to you, you're done. You have spellcasters pelting spells at you, so you have nowhere to run, and worst of all, the knights standing on the pressure plates won't move until you deal enough damage. The likelihood of speedrunning this just doesn't exist, at least not for my novice ass. There was no way I would make it all the way to the top and deal damage to the knights and get 2 units on the pressure plates without all of my characters dying. It just wasn't happening. But we beat it, and set the water free to stop the battle from happening. We rescue Orlando and have him join us, so that way we can beat him to death in a back alley and rob him of his sword because it's one of the best you'll ever get until the end game. Okay, quick speedrun time. Dumber dies to Delita. We fight more dead people a second time for some reason. Weird it happened twice. Dice Darg is given Orsight by Church Bitch, and Zalbog finds out Dice Darg killed their dear dead daddy. Okay, speedrun done. We get to Limbury Castle after our invite from Elmdor in the last chapter for, wait for it, You guessed it. More sequential battles. My fucking favorite! Anyways, we get this show on the road. The first battle is against Skank 1 and Skank 2, and when the developers made this particular battle, one person asked which status effects do you want, and the response was yes. After we reduce their health, the battle ends, and we move inside to fight Elmdor with the Skanks. The battle has no major thought process to it. They deal so much damage that your options are kill them before they kill you, or kill them before they kill you. And Elmdor evades most physical attacks, so that left spells or abilities with no accuracy, and boy did I spam the fuck out of them, and won. We then followed Elmdor to his Undercroft, where he turns into a demon animal thing, like the other ones. And the medieval Green Goblin shows up again, only to realize that the Marquis is actually a demon. We were right and she was stupid. She didn't actually do a whole lot to help during the battle, but the battle wasn't very hard to begin with. Corner Elmdor and just beat the crap out of him, then be done with it. We talked to Meliadul about putting a stop to everything and decide to return home. Delita is a sociopath. That's it. Nothing else. We make it back home to an empty-looking castle in Egros. When we go inside, we find Zalbog confronting Dicedarg over the death of their father. Remza and Zalbog combined forces to stop him, which results in Dicedarg turning into a demon animal and executing Zalbog before we in turn do the same thing to him. Off to the church in Milan, and oh no! High Confessor Marcel's being killed. Oh no. How awful. He's definitely not a horrible person deserving of this fate or anything. He totally didn't stoke all of the conflict that's happening in this game. So we fight church people, and it's easy. We go inside and talk to Fulmarv and give him the scriptures of Germanique in order to get our sister back, which he agrees to. But once he gets the scriptures, he's like, nah. So we fight him and win, but then he runs away like a little bitch. We follow him to, I think, another Undercroft, where he reanimates our dead brother like the psycho he is. We have to fight undead Zalbog. We beat him. It's very sad. Then we come across the currently dying High Confessor. Oh no. He tells us that the bad guys are going to Orban Monastery because there's a portal or something there. Why everything in this game revolves around Orban, every single extremely important plot moment, I don't really know. It's interesting though. That being said, we go to Orban for our last set of sequential battles, and for the final battles of the game, and... who are these people? I mean really. We have a Relevant 1, a Relevant 2, and a Relevant 3. What role did they play in the story? I vaguely remember Relevant 3 as the one who was spreading poison, I think? Seriously? The final fights before the final fights, and we have the equivalent of the FF4 Magus Sisters. Not even the iconic FF10 ones, just the FF4 ones. What the actual fuck? After those fights, we find Fulmarv with our sister, who's planning to use her as a sacrifice to resurrect Saint Ajora. Yeah, you heard that right. The long dead guy that the church religion is based off of. We interrupt him so he turns into a demon lion, I think? The battle isn't very hard though, as he basically just spams Earthquake the whole time, which has a slow-ass casting time, so it's easy to move out of the way. We beat him, and he, being a sore loser, offs himself to complete the ritual. Some magical shit starts happening, and Alma becomes an old woman? Yeah, okay. Definitely wasn't on my bingo card, but Ajora has possessed her. But Alma fights back and somehow magically makes a new body for herself, which is never explained. But I guess it doesn't have to be. Then Ajora, with Alma's body that's not Alma's body, transforms into a giant demon bird with boobs, and attacks us with a whole horde of really strong, annoying demons. Now, when I tell you this fight caused me so much suffering, I had to attempt this fight so many times. It wasn't even just Ultima, because with the Ninja Blade, I was able to disable Ultima, and Ultima just teleported away to the other side of the arena and didn't do anything. It was all the other demons that had all these like one-shotting abilities that were really obnoxious. So eventually I decided to do some research and happened upon the fact that gravity spells are the way to go since she has way more HP than I thought she did. I utilized those. All my characters were low, and just when I thought the battle was over, we moved on to phase 2. Come on. Ugh. Needless to say, I wasn't planning for a phase 2, so I was obliterated. Mainly because Alma was stupid. She learned Ultima from Ultima, and decided it would be cute to cast it on herself, Ramza, and Ultima at the same time, essentially shooting me in the foot. But I reattempted, adjusted my strategy to accommodate for the second phase, and I finished the fight. And I have to say, despite my complaining through it, I haven't had that tough of a final boss fight in a long time in an RPG. I'm really happy it was such a challenge, especially when final bosses sometimes can be such a letdown. Everything wraps up, and Ramza and Alma decide it would be best to go somewhere far away, as they'd be hunted for being heretics, even though they saved the world, essentially, because no one knew. We have a scene of Oren and some others at the tombstone of Ramza and Alma, thinking that they're dead. When everyone leaves, Oren sees Ramza and Alma go by on chocobos off to somewhere new. And this sets the stage for Oren to wish to tell their story, and takes us back to the beginning of the game, where it was describing the papers about Ramza that the church locked away, since he's a heretic, and it brings us in a nice loop, connecting and tying everything together. I was upset to begin with that there was no wrap-up for Delita and Ovilia until this scene came in. Delita's become king with Ivalice as his queen. He finds her on her birthday in the same spot he found her earlier in the story, where he told her to trust him, to bring her flowers, only for her to turn around and rightfully stab him with a dagger before he stabs her back and kills her. He speaks aloud to Ramza, asking if he got what he wanted out of all of this, because this is what he was left with. Delita deserved worse and Ivalice deserved better, but that's just my opinion and I think it's right. Delita's a complex character that I really dislike for a lot of reasons. So we finally finished the story, and I have to be honest, I really, really liked it. I've played a lot of games, so it's not very often I get to play a celebrated game that's this old, especially not a Final Fantasy, as I've played so many. Sometimes the difficulty spikes were a bit much, but overall it was good, and the story was great. I don't think there was anything that was really left unfinished. It was all pretty wrapped up in a neat bow. That being said, the more I played, the more I had time to think about the story and its themes. Behind all the swords, politics, and magic, there's a very real message I feel this game conveys that can be applied to real life in many ways. This was a story about the flaws and very real failings of humans, their motivations, and the things it would take to sway them. Everyone's faced with their own morality and fears at some point, and I think this game did a fantastic job of encapsulating that. Thank you so much for playing along with me on my first journey through this game. I had so much fun, and I hope you did too. Have a beautiful day and a great night, and I'll see you all around next time. Rez signing out.